Hi, I hope you can hear me better. I'm so sorry. I didn't know that my video recording was like at times. And I think I fixed it, but I don't entirely know. Like I said, this is my first uh time doing this. So, I'm going to look at my Okay, so I was at 12:19. So I'm going to re-Google the video and go to 12:19. I'm gonna make myself a little smaller too, cause I was kind of in the frame too much.
I desensitize.
All right, let me read my intro. Hello and welcome to Shadowwork Psychic. My name is Raven, and this is my YouTube channel, an offering to the world where I share my psychic abilities with the intention to facilitate healing for humanity through the process of embracing our archetypal wounds and transforming our shadows into sight. I am you, I see you, I honor you, and may we rise together in the truth and wisdom of who we are. So welcome to Shadowwork Psychic. This is part 2 of me reading Jeffrey Dahmer's mind. So if you want to watch part 1, I will link it in the description below, and I recommend that you watch that because I'm just going to jump in from where we left off. So here we go. Angels, please make my mic work really well, okay? Thanks. I'm going to turn this down a little bit to minimize interference. And I'm going to make my frame just a little smaller to make it just a bit more easy to see. Okay. And I'm going to full screen this guy.
At first it was just curiosity, and then it became compulsive. Then I tried to keep the person alive by inducing a zombie-like state. By injecting first a dilute acid solution into their brain or hot water, and it never did completely work.
Could someone like you be stopped? Could you be helped?
No, I was...
Okay. So, so he just said that he tried to make them like zombies, right? This man is explaining this the way a scientist is explaining their experiments, or the way an artist is explaining their process. If he had remorse, he would be like, oh my god, I tried to make them into zombies. Like, I don't even know what I was thinking. You know, it would be hard for him to fully explain it. It wouldn't be like that. And he wouldn't have this smug little expression in his eyes recalling those moments. You can sort of see in the micro expression of his eyes the really small tilt in the corners. You can see that there's a sense of, I don't know if joy is the right word, but it might be fulfillment in what he did. I think we know that this man doesn't have remorse, but I think the sense that I get is that there is a sort of, I'm going really deep here, okay? There was a sort of infantile, sick fascination with it. Sort of the way that, like, a disturbed little kid burns ants with a magnifying glass, and there's this sort of numb, strange, almost baby-like, infantile, physical focus, perception within that realm of psychological functioning, to where there's just this like dissociation from their humanity, from his own humanity, and it's so subtle and it's so innate and it's so all consuming that to this man, yeah, Making people into zombies was essentially just another form of his experiments, desire to get closer, void trying to heal the loneliness. But I can very clearly feel in his perception right now this like that was the next step of the game kind of like vibe going, and the mask of any form of self-awareness kind of slips a little bit in that way that he talked about it, um, as the interviewer said, sorry, earlier. He sounds self-aware, but he's not. It's true.
I was dead set on going with this compulsion. It was the only thing that gave me any satisfaction.
He became so warped by his evil impulses that he even took a victim's head with him to work at the Ambrosia chocolate factory.
I kept the mummified head and skull of one of the victims in a carrying case in my locker at work.
Were you almost flaunting it?
Yes, but that's how strong the compulsion was. That's how bizarre the desire was.
Do you see how he's defending himself slightly? But that's how strong the compulsion was. That's the arrogance of this emptiness and this darker, possessive of his own void quality his soul took on. That's it taking over. And his personality feels righteous in that impulse.
I wanted to keep something of the person with me.
Jeffrey Dahlmer exhibited some disturbing behavior early on. He began drinking heavily as a teenager, dropped out of college, was arrested for indecent exposure, disorderly conduct, and fondling a 13-year-old boy. Tragically, one of his murder victims would be that boy's brother. Do you know what started it? Was there any kind of incident that you can remember?
To this day, I don't know what started it. And the person to blame is sitting right across from you. That's the only person. Not parents, not society, not pornography. I mean, those are just excuses.
His macabre 13-year crime spree finally ended when this man, Tracy Edwards, brought the police to the infamous apartment. Like the others, he had gone there with the promise of money.
He was listening to my heart because at a point he told me he was going to eat my heart at that point. I hit him and I ran.
What was the turning point for you that made you suddenly realize that you had done something terribly wrong, something you should be sorry for?
It was the night of the arrest. I have no memory of what happened during the 6 hours before the last victim ran out of the apartment. I heard a knock on the door.
He's upset that he got caught. Like, when I was looking at him when he was sitting, I saw this, like, I don't know how to fully explain it, but it's like a frozen, seething monster made out of tar. It's like all of a sudden my desires and my needs came to a halt. And I felt in my impression this feeling that I used to feel in my own life, but in a different way, where it's like the feeling of being so sort of energetically overwhelmed and sort of like kind of stopped in your nature of your nervous system that you're very uncomfortable. And I'm going to give you context by telling you a short story from my personal life. So I'm like a highly sensitive person, as I'm sure you probably can tell. I'm an empath. I'm very, very psychic. And there was a time in my life where I didn't have a car, so I had to take the bus everywhere. And when I was taking the bus, I would sit next to strangers and I would pick up on their energy. And eventually my body would get so overwhelmed with other people's energy that I would feel kind of emotionally numb and sort of weighed down and kind of like stuck energetically in some ways. And it sort of became this like kind of like it felt like my body was cement sometimes. And when Jeffrey Dahmer was, and the reason why it felt that way is because I was not honoring my sensitivities. I was exposing myself to so much energy and I wasn't giving myself time to discharge it. And essentially, the rhythm of my nervous system was being sort of, I guess, not very cared for or well maintained. And that's how he felt. That's how Jeffrey Dahmer felt in the aftermath of him getting caught, is that he no longer was able to satisfy his needs because he needed to murder people and consume people in order to maintain um, the functioning of his nervous system, because at this point he had become fully vampiric. Um, I would say not just energetically, but also physically too. Because, and this is a very scary truth, but when people practice cannibalism, they do become addicted to it. They do become addicted to eating flesh. And he has a different energetic signature than other people who I've read who've done cannibalism, which I will also make videos about here in the future. I know some of you are like, what? Yeah. So he has a different energetic signature than people who are like, who like to drink blood or whatever. Like he doesn't have the same sort of, dark red and luciferic, meaning falsely spiritual. He doesn't have the falsely spiritual effervescence that satanic ritual abusers have, or people who practice cannibalism in the dark occult have. He also doesn't have the same energetic signature as people who are in the dark elite have either, which is why I think people are attracted to him, is because he seems normal, but this is we're watching him right now in this interview as somebody who doesn't have his fix. And so I think that if you saw, this is going to sound so weird, I might be talking to like a past version of myself here, because I don't know if any of you have the same YouTube search history as I do. I've watched interviews of people openly talking about cannibalism in different contexts from different walks of society, because I have a very plutonic desire and plutonic mind, meaning I'm very invested in psychology, so I watch a lot of very odd things. With all that being said, if any of those people who are in the dark elite who do dark things didn't have their fix, they might have a similar sort of stuck feeling as he has. But I'm trying to say here that he wasn't like relieved or happy to be caught. His biological functioning is being prevented. Like, he is biologically wired to murder people. And I didn't know this. I mean, this is learning for me too, because I'm just tuning into energy, but I guess from what I'm gathering right now, it seems as though, there are people who have different nervous system wirings. I know that I've watched spiritual videos where when people have talked about the dark side of, the soul, and people who possess things like narcissism and sociopathy, they say that their energetic aura, their aura is energetically vampiric or distorted in some way. And that's true, but they haven't talked about the body, and the nerves of the body. And yes, with someone like this, with someone who has these kinds of urges, they have a different kind of nervous system. Depending on where somebody is spiritually, in terms of how much of their soul they've let into their body, what kind of healing work they have done on themselves, and where they are in terms of that, like, your nervous system is connected to that. It's connected to where life force flows in your body, how it flows in your body, what it does. It's the nerves and the nervous system are also connected to psychic abilities. There's a link between being a highly sensitive person and being psychic. There's also a link, in my opinion, to being autistic and being psychic, in some capacities as well, although that's not always the case. And I think that with all of this being said, it's like, think of it in terms of like like fantasy movies, how like there are people in real life too who have like profound spiritual abilities and gifts, and there's also the very opposite, people who are profoundly dark, like darker than most people. There's people who are very light, people who are very dark, and then there's people who are kind of in the middle, and there's also a difference between darkness and evil, which is a separate topic. And I think that Jeffrey Dahmer, from my current understanding right now, I would feel as though there's probably more evil in him than darkness, because it seems as though he's aware that what he's doing is wrong, but he's still doing it to the point where his own body sort of needs to do it to survive and to thrive. There are real parasites in this world, and some of them are people, and there are real predators in this world too, and some of them are people. This man is a clear example of a predator. I mean, he's charismatic, he seems self-aware, he'll draw you in and he will kill you, and that's why it's important to, in a lot of cases, really listen to somebody's words. Like, people will always tell you who they are, and they don't always tell you with their words. They can sometimes tell you with what they don't say, right? And that's also what we're doing here. Jeffrey Dahmer is not showing remorse. He's not uncomfortable. He's pretty even keel. That's weird, right? If somebody had empathy and if they, had remorse, hopefully they wouldn't even do this in the first place. But if they did this and realized, oh my god, it was awful, they probably wouldn't be as regulated, right? Anyway, I hope that makes sense.
And the police were there with the last victim. They asked me where the key was to the handcuffs. My mind was in a haze. I sort of pointed to the bedroom, and that's where they found the pictures. And they yelled, "Cuff him." And I was handcuffed, and it was just the realization that there was no point in trying to hide my actions anymore. The best route was to help the police identify all the victims.
The best route. So this is interesting that he said that, because to me that sounds sort of like his own moral code. There is no point in trying to hide because he'd already been caught, right? But if he hadn't been caught, there probably would have been a point in trying to hide. And to me, this looks like an external moral compass, or some kind of moral compass, because he did not hide anything. He fully admitted, and that's a level of not caring that is so deep that I am actually interested in that, because some people who I've watched on like interrogations and people who have NPD, they do try to hide their crimes in the most stupid ways. Like, the crimes are proven, they're already guilty, they're just being questioned before they, go to court and become imprisoned. Like, I've seen some cases where the proof was already there, they just wanted to see what the killer would say, and those people have been so stupid. They've defended themselves in the most bizarre ways, and they don't make any sense. And I mean, they do, because everyone has their logic, and I do understand their logic, but this man didn't even attempt, and I find that very interesting. I find that super interesting.
And just make a complete confession.
When it was revealed that most of the victims were black or homosexual, people in Milwaukee were incensed. Many felt that was why he went after them, and why the police didn't seem to care when their families reported them missing.
10 of your 17 victims were black. Were they racially motivated?
It was not racially motivated. It was not sexual preference. It was just to find
arrogance.
an obsession with the best looking
And I think that it was a sexual preference. I do. That's what I feel.
young man I could find.
While you just heard him say that his sexual preference had nothing to do with the killings,
No.
he has not come to terms with his homosexuality.
Never understood it. There was no use trying to fight it because I couldn't rid myself of it.
Okay, and this is where we go back to where we were before in part one, where I was touching on these themes within his psyche of violence, arrogance, internalized homophobia, and homosexuality. She just said he wasn't in touch with his own sexuality, and now he's saying right now, I've never understood it. I couldn't control it. So I wonder what that means about him.
It was too powerful and persistent.
Do you dislike it?
Yes, it's caused a lot of problems for me. A lot of conflicts and unanswered questions.
The conflicts remain with him, and so do his compulsions. But in prison, he finally cannot act on his savage desires.
If you were out on the street now, would you still be committing the crimes?
Probably, if this hadn't happened. There's
Oh God. And you can see like that he got caught. If this hadn't happened, like that tone of his voice, he's annoyed that it did happen. He's annoyed that it happened. And he really probably doesn't want people to know that. Or wouldn't want people to know that. I can feel his spirit being like, fuck you for saying that. Well, it's true, Jeffrey. Oh my God.
no doubt I probably would be. I can't think of anything that would have stopped me.
Okay, well that was the video. Thank you so much for watching with me. I hope that this gave you something. I don't fully know. I mean, I've learned my own things as well, but that's apparently what I've gotten from Jeffrey Dahmer. I think that at the end of the day, I when I think of him, I think of profound loneliness and how being disconnected from yourself and from humanity on such a deep level can lead to things like this, and can lead to this level of a misguided and very, very evil and yet very naive attempt at connection through objectification. Yeah. Hope that makes sense. Once again, this was my first time making these videos, so thank you for bearing with me, and I hope that my mic quality improves as we continue to do this. And this has been Reading Jeffrey Dahmer's Mind. Please leave any questions in the description box that you want me to answer if you have any, and I'll do my best to answer them. And now I ask for the angels to clear my energy and to clear your energy. What can we take from this? You could take anything you want from this. I don't have all the answers. I don't pretend to. And yeah, I mean, I think that, I hope that in some ways this gave you something. And just know that, like, you're safe in your heart. You're safe in your peace. And I think if I was to read a healing path for Jeffrey Dahmer and see what could have happened that would have helped him heal differently, I mean, I think that he got to such a point in himself where he lost access to his essence and became biologically, physically vampiric. The healing path for that is arduous and difficult and probably impossible for most souls when they're already on that wavelength, because it takes a tremendous amount of time for the biology and the neurology to change. I would say it would take a series of incredibly intense facilitated shamanic deaths and facing his darkness head on and his obsession head on, and letting it go through him without him fulfilling it. And I think eventually the energy would have to move up to his heart, and his heart would have to merge with the sacral chakra, but that would take a long time, and he probably would have killed himself before facing that, because facing the kind of obsession that he was facing, it's like he was either gonna kill himself or kill others, and he did that as a form of domination. That's what I'm getting. I feel like I just opened up a rabbit hole, um, and I'm gonna escape this and see how long I've been recording. It doesn't say. Well, yeah, I mean, I don't want to overwhelm you with information. I don't want to be super like out there yet. I think this was a lot for a lot of people to take in. Just know that, like, yeah, it takes all kinds. There is definitely fucked up people in this world. Um, I think it's better to face it and to accept it than to hide from it, because we all have our own ways of doing things, you know, and ways of being. Um, yeah, I feel like I have more things to say, but I don't know how to fully articulate it. I guess to summarize, within him, I saw like a void that was eating him, that became obsessed, that became deranged, that became focused on consuming. And this void is sexual in nature, overacting. It was an overacting sexual thing going on. Violence became part of it and took over. And at the same time, it was there the whole time to begin with, because of his position as a soul being very, very developmentally stunted energetically. And this created a different kind of wiring in his nervous system. So there you go. There you go. Hope this gave you something. And I wish you well. And connect to humanity, connect to yourself, connect to people, be honest about your pain, and yeah.